Radio Row here in Phoenix, Arizona, where, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs will be taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Sunday, kickoff is at 4:30 local. With me, I have a great friend of mine, but someone I look up to. We probably the same age, but still, this man here does the things that I try to do locally that I get in trouble for. But this man here gets a chance, not 1 year in a row, but 2 years address Mr. Goodell with some pressing issues that are important, not only in the business, but to the culture as well. With me is the NFL Networks and NFL.com writer, Mr. Jim Trotter. Jim, thank you so very much for taking a few minutes of your time today to come speak to me.
Of course, brother. Happy to do it.
Well, first things first, you had a question to the commissioner in yesterday's presser, which followed up on a great question, which was similar to what you asked them 2 years ago or last year in Los Angeles. Do you mind giving our audience who didn't get a chance, maybe who not on Twitter,
Yeah,
of what
sure.
you asked the commissioner? Because everybody doesn't get that chance too often. I got a chance to ask him a question in 2020 in Tampa, basically regarding minority hiring and people like Eric Bieniemy still not getting that opportunity to be a head coach, and
Yeah.
then you got a chance to follow up and do what you always do.
Yeah. Well, it started last year where, there was a whole focus on the lack of diversity among head coaches and general managers and
Yeah.
even within the league office and whatnot. And so I asked him about it a year ago. He gave his answer that, they had fallen short and they were going to review all their practices, policies, and procedures to try and correct this problem. And here we sit a year later, and basically we are net zero in terms of gains on the coaching side and only +1 on the general manager side. But to ask him that again about that, I knew what the answer I would get. So I tried to make it more pointed and specific in that his people are now saying and have been saying for some time that this issue and this commitment to equity and inclusion extends beyond the coaches and general managers in front office and applies to all branches of the NFL. And so I work for NFL Media, which is league owned. And in my 5 years there, we have never had a black um, person in senior management in the newsroom. And for the last year plus, we have not had a full time black person on our news desk. And that's troubling to me because we cover a player population who, according to the league's data, is 60 to 70% black. So it means that when decisions are being made about how to cover these players and who covers them, there is no one at the table who looks like them or shares some of the cultural life experiences that these players do. And for me, that is a problem. And so if you are going to tell us that you are committed to this issue, then your actions have to reflect your words. And that's not what we're seeing.
It's interesting you say that. I'm gonna circle back around to follow up on that because I've asked that literal same question to Brett Veach, and we were at a KU basketball game. Just happened to cross him in the hallway underneath the tunnel, and I happened to ask him, and I asked him, I said, "Do you feel that it needs to be more minor?" And I don't say minority because people can consider it white women. Do you feel like it
Sure.
needs to be more black members of the media covering the Chiefs? Because for that exact reason, it's like when I look at KU, when I go out there to cover KU or even the locker room, let's just put it like this. I had Herbie Teope, who one of your colleagues,
Yeah.
on with us yesterday, and we talked about how when we look in that Chiefs press room, it's not that many of us,
Right.
and it's definitely not that many blacks. It's only two black radio people that cover the Chiefs. That's myself, my co-host Steve Walls, and it's very few TV people, and then it's like the people who the players, who get to travel or the news media there locally. And I asked him, what responsibility does he feel like he has? Because to me, I feel like, especially if you're the general manager owner, you can kind of dictate, hey, if you're going to cover our team, we need to have X amount of black people covering this team for your organization, and then it's up to the organization to make sure that they hire the people that need to be doing the job. Why do you feel like it's so important for us to be representing the players, or at least trying to get their stories out, or make sure that the diversity numbers are equitable?
Well, it's quite simple. I mean, all of us have different life experiences based on, how we grew up, where we grew up, what we grew up around, that sort of thing. And so different issues hit differently
Yeah.
depending on your life experiences. And so that's why a newsroom, step outside of sports. A newsroom is supposed to be reflective of the community that it covers. And again, so if you are going to be reflective of this player population in the NFL that we are talking about, how is it that you cannot have one black person in your newsroom in a senior management position who is at the table when discussions are being had about how these players are going to be covered and who is going to cover them? And so I say that to say, if I share a life experience, a similar life experience with a player who has gone through something, I am going to view it a little differently and maybe be a little more empathetic or have a different understanding of why a player did what he did, as opposed to a white person or a non-black who has no idea and can never relate to what this player has gone through. So it's just good business, right? It's just good business to have a media pool that is reflective of the people who they cover. And that's one of the things, like I was just talking to a retired player a minute ago, and he was talking about, he brought this up to me, and I can use the name, it doesn't matter. But he brought up to me the way that the media covered Gronk when he played, Gronkowski.
Yeah.
And he said Gronk could go out and get wasted and do all sorts of crazy things. And the media, the white media, would laugh and say, oh, what a great guy, and this is wild, and yada, yada, yada. But you let a black player go out and get drunk off his butt and do some crazy things, and then let's hear what the dialogue or the narrative is like in that situation. And he has a point when he talks about the disparity in cover or the uneven handedness in terms of coverage. So um, that's all I ask in this from the NFL, is that if you are going to talk the talk, walk the walk, and make sure your actions are reflective of your words. And if you keep telling me that diversity, equity, and inclusion are core principles of the NFL, then damn it, reflect that.
Man, I tell you, I could talk to you all day because I just love talking to you. And one, when I talk to you, I feel like I'm talking to my mentor who brought me into the business literally 30 years ago this season, this year. He got me started when I was a sophomore in high school, so I've already dated myself to the people who are watching right now. So yeah, I'm about 40, 44 right now.
Oh, you're
When
a baby, man.
I know, right? I
You're
know.
a baby.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't feel that way.
Yeah,
But
you tried to say we're about the same age. We ain't even close,
I
man.
know.
You a
Yeah,
baby.
yeah, but you look good too for your age. So see,
Well, I
that's a good
appreciate
thing.
it.
Um, and I do want to talk about your teaching aspect because you do teach as well. But one of the things when he brought me up, and I tell people all the time, when people ask me about how I got into the business, what I do, and they ask me why I dress this way, and I told him, I said, when I was a sophomore in high school, I had left basketball practice, and my grandma and I went straight to Arrowhead Stadium. I think it was a Monday night game. Sophomore in high school now, one of the first games I got a chance to cover, and I was in the Chicago Bulls basketball jersey, just coming from school. He gave me a sports coat, and then he gave me a tongue lashing. A couple of days later, or the following week when he brought me my credential. But I learned that, and again, 14 years old, my mind's not where it is today. But he explained to me how we're looked at differently, we're held to a higher standard, and can't dress any kind of way. And I learned that at a young age, obviously quickly. And so, people who get to I tell them, if you can, get your shirt, get your tie, get your nice, if you have to, get your polo, get your sports coat. And I tell them, I said, the rules are not the same for us. And look, I know we talk about um, uh, people in charge. Everybody that look like us still don't act, everybody that's your kind is not your people. And so, uh,
All skin folk
yeah,
ain't kinfolk.
all skin folk and kinfolk. And, and I tell people, even covering the Chiefs, man, it's hard. Like, I've had to dial down my James Trotter when it comes to asking questions because they get offended. They threaten me with pulling my credentials and stuff. And so, I still ask tough questions, but I don't dive like deep into it, with the hard hitting questions like, I can get some more black folk in. Because I take a perfect example during the AFC Championship week, we're going over to the training facility, and I'm seeing nothing. I see no black person in that football in that practice facility that's working at that stadium. Not one person. About 200 people. They're in the cafeteria and stuff like that. I'm like, and I'm looking around like, where the black people at? But they don't have that conversation. So it's like, okay, I mean, just be quiet before they, pull my credentials and I don't get a chance to cover the game.
No,
So
but I would say to you in that situation, number one, what I always try and do at least is first have that conversation in private, right?
oh, I have.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. And if I have that conversation in private, and I am told that something is being done to address this, and then I see over a period of time it is not, then I would continue to push that, and then I'd start dealing with it more publicly. Like this issue with the NFL, the question I put to Roger is not the first time that the NFL has heard that question from him.
Correct. Well, yeah, obviously.
No, I mean, internally during the year, like even when we have meetings before the season starts, I bring this stuff up and ask them about it. And of course, sometimes they look at me like I'm crazy, or they try and tell me that what I'm seeing is not what I'm seeing. um, but and so it gets to the point where now, when we come to this commissioner's press conference, I feel like I have to ask it there because one, you don't get access to the commissioner.
Facts.
When we were doing a podcast,
Steve Weiss.
twice through two different entities, we tried to get Roger to come on our podcast. And in both cases, it didn't happen. But yet he went on other podcasts.
And he's going to go on the Kelsey podcast.
So if they say to me, why didn't you bring this to us or bring this to Roger? My response would always be, we tried.
We did. We tried. Not once, but twice.
So, look, the reality here, man, is however many years I have left in this business, and I don't know how many there are, but the one thing I have made a commitment and a promise to myself about is I'm going to use whatever platform I have to give a voice to the voiceless. And I understand that there are people at NFL Network who want to ask the same question that I ask, but they don't. And I'm not judging, because I understand that.
No, I get it, because
they can't. In terms of their livelihood and those sorts of things, they're a lot younger, and they have bills to pay and all of that. Man, I'm old enough now where it's like, look, if I get fired, I get fired. I'll find another job, and if I don't, I've set money aside to where I'll be okay. But somebody needs to speak for us, and I'm gonna. If it comes to that, I'm going to do it.
You've gotten into teaching. I know you're a professor. Now, I tell people growing up in the business when I went to Lincoln University that in Missouri, HBCU, the HBCU grad as well. I tell people all the time that I'm only beholden, and this is what I learned freshman first day, have to be beholden to the truth and the facts. Everything else is irrelevant. Not trying to be one of those people that come up with shock takes that I don't believe in that. I just believe truth, facts, and everything else will work itself out. What made you get into teaching, and what type of foundation do you set for your students?
Yeah, I teach one class, one semester a year. And the reason I got into it is, one, I was approached about it, and two, I felt that hopefully I had something to offer to these students coming in. And what I ultimately realized in my short time doing it, at least where I am, is that I feel that the students aren't being prepared properly for the real world.
In LA,
yeah. And so I had all these grand visions of what I wanted to do with them.
Yeah.
And ultimately what I decided was, you know what, even though it's an upper division course, we're going to go back to basics.
Got to.
And we're going to have a foundation. And I tell them, the one thing I want when you leave this class, my goal, if nothing else, is that you can step into a newsroom and be able to function. And if I can get you to that, then I've done okay. Yeah,
that's half the battle.
But and I don't mean to generalize, because there are some programs that are doing incredible work, and I think that where I am, we can get there too if that is our goal, that is our desire. But that was it more. I felt like I had something to offer the students, and in today's climate and whatnot, I felt it was important that they hear it. And fortunately, some have responded to it, some have not. and that's okay. And I tell them the first day of class, this may not be for you. It is not for everyone. And this is not simply what's my opinion, let me go on air and give it, and I'm
Or hit the
good.
go live button and,
Yeah, it's so much deeper than that. And understanding the importance of relationships, understanding the importance of accuracy, um, understanding the importance of hard work, understanding the importance of what that hard work could mean on a family life. There are just so many layers to this business that, when you're young, you don't think about it. You just get blinded by, I may be on TV, or I may see my name in a newspaper or online or whatever. And that's all fine, you know, but there's a lot more to it.
Before we get you out of here, your thoughts on Sunday's game?
Yeah, I go back and forth. Look, I'll say right up front, if I have to pick a team, I think I am going to go with Philadelphia. But, and you and I talked about this,
Yeah.
the thing that gives me great pause is Patrick Mahomes.
The equalizer.
Yes, because, and look, he has always been a great talent. But following that Super Bowl loss to Tampa, I saw a different Patrick Mahomes from that point forward. And it was a Patrick Mahomes who realized the greatness that he possesses, the impact that he can have on games, and how there just seems to be a different feel about him when he is faced with adversity. There is almost this just aura around him that no challenge is too great.
Yeah.
No opponent is too strong. And we will, if I have the ball in my hands at the end, we are going to find a way to win.
Yeah.
And excuse me, that's what I see with him. And that's the only reason I hesitate when I'm asked who's going to win. Because I do believe at this point, Philadelphia is a more complete team and has been the more consistent team.
That's fair. That part
over
is
the
fair.
course of the season.
Yeah.
But man, look, I just hope it's a great game.
Me too.
I thought the NFC Championship game was going to be a great game. That's where I was,
Yeah.
And then to have your quarterback go down on the
First series, man, that was crazy.
6 plays in, it was like, can we just do running clock the rest of this
Right.
game?
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm like, okay, no need to put these players through this. One, I don't want anyone to get hurt on Philadelphia, and two, San Francisco knows that it's over, and
saw
use
Trent
the mercy
Williams trying
rule,
to. Because Trent Williams trying to get off the field quickly. Like, come on, they throw a punch and just get me out of here.
Wow.
So, I know I said, but because of who you are, I love to get your thought process on it. I had asked Clark Hunt about it, and I may have to tag you in the video just so you can take a look at it. But Patrick Mahomes, with the retirement of Tom Brady, seems as though Patrick Mahomes, win or lose, but especially if they win, because gets elevated to that new face of the league.
I think he's been the face of the league.
I get it, but I'm saying, but he's been kind of sharing it with Tom Brady and Aaron, because Brady's been there for so long. But now that Brady's gone away to pasture, and Aaron is in some dark place thinking about his future. Look, this past season we saw them always trying to Patrick versus Joe Burrow, Patrick versus Josh Allen, Patrick versus, and it seems like everybody wants to try to find someone to either compare with.
But that speaks to his.
I know, yes. and that's where I was going. Do you feel like the NFL is actually ready to have the face of the league be a black man?
Yeah, I think it is, but I think what complicates it is if that black man speaks out on black issues, on issues that relate to the culture. I believe the white America will accept a conversation, but if that conversation goes too long,
or too far to the left,
or if that conversation is too pointed, then they tire of you. And Warren Moon gave me this 2 years ago. I did a story 3 years ago before the draft. And the question was, the premise of the piece was, is race no longer a factor in the evaluation of quarterbacks? And I talked to Warren, to Randall Cunningham, to Doug Williams, Tony Dungy. I mean, go down the line. I talked to a number of folks about it. And Warren said to me, that he believes things have improved. He believes on a certain level it is still a factor. And he said the biggest thing is there are still people out there who do not want a black man being the face of their franchise or the guy who endorses everything. And he's right. There are always going to be those people. But for Patrick, yeah, I think the NFL is ready, and I think the public is ready. But I think that there will always be those, however few, however many, who will not want to accept it. And that's why, not to cut you off, but that's why I find it so interesting the way we keep trying to elevate Josh Allen, who is a great player. I'm not taking anything away from him. But we all seem so hungry to anoint him coming into the year and even early in the year.
Everything I said this week, yep.
As MVP.
And Super Bowl champion, yeah.
You know, all of these things. I'm like, let's just let it play out, you know?
That's what I've always said about Patrick, and then just the greatest. He's the greatest man. Let his career play out. I said, and it'll speak for itself. And you said it perfectly, James. Man, let people know where they can find your work. And now, what are you going to be doing as it relates to building up to the Super Bowl?
I'm done after today. I got one more. I got a couple of TV hits today, and then I am done until Sunday. I'll write, something off of the game, and then I'm going home and dusting off my golf clubs.
And you that golf.
Yes, I'm heading out to the course and try and forget about all of it.
Yeah, and thinking about what you're talking about, Patrick. Yeah, I remember 2 years ago during the COVID era, and of course with all the George Floyd stuff like that, when he and others did that Black Lives Matter video. Trust me, Twitter was going. Now, local in Kansas City, it was just burning up. Stay out of it.
I loved him for.
I did. Well, it's funny, because we had the same barber, and would tell him all the time, say, bro, you know what's about to happen when this thing dropped. I was like, I got your back. But it's gonna come, and man, when it came, everybody expected time. But when Patrick, it basically back then he was quote unquote the face. But when he came out there and did that, oh man, all hell was breaking loose, man. I enjoyed it too. I enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, and he was ready for all that smoke. I was so happy for him.
That's what I loved about it. He knew what he was
facing. And he didn't back down.
And
he didn't back.
But see, this is what gets me. Number one, he shouldn't have to back down.
Yeah.
And number two, what I loved about it.
DNA.
Is that he stood on principle.
Exactly.
And whether I agree or disagree with you on something, if you stand on principle as opposed to just emotion, we can have a conversation about it, and I can respect that. Normal, in most cases. But Patrick was on the right side of history. The league was not. And he and others forced the league to change its position. And that's powerful, man.
That is.
And what he did, too, is he and those others help players understand the power that they possess in terms of trying to make change about things that affect them. And that's so powerful because so many young players come in and, man, they're afraid of their own shadow.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of pissing off a coach or a GM or an owner. And what Patrick said is, you know what? I'm not worried about any of them. This is the right thing to do. And he stood on that. And I have so much respect for him for that. So much respect.
I do too. James Trotter, NFL.com writer, NFL Network, my friend, HBCU graduate. Appreciate your time as always, man. Thank you so very much.
Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. We will be back after this time out.
Kansas City Cocktail Company is a mobile bartending caterer serving the greater Kansas City area. They specialize in creating craft cocktails and providing exceptional service. Their mission is to provide their guests a unique bar and beverage experience and to make their hosts look like superstars and allow them to enjoy the party. KC Cocktail can bartend any event or any size group or drop off their craft cocktails right to your door. They have multiple mobile bars, including their signature bubble bars, a vintage bar cart, and a horse trailer bar for outdoor venues and events. Check out their website at www.kccocktailco.com or their social on IG or FB at KC Cocktail Company to get more info on bar setups, pricing, and availability. Or you can call 816-456-4388 or email at hello@kccocktailco.com.